What do the Vols need to do in the SEC tournament? And I will just open it up to interpretation. What say you?
I think, believe it or not, Tennessee has to win the SEC tournament if they want a 1 seed. And my reasoning for that is they are number 5 in both polls. I think right now the selection committee is valuing Houston, UConn, Purdue, and North Carolina above Tennessee. Houston, UConn, Purdue are clear cuts. They have 3 losses. They have 28 wins. They have a significantly better record. Their BPI index, like everything about them is, those are the 3 clear-cut number 1 seeds. So it comes down to Tennessee and North Carolina. And North Carolina has a better record and beat Tennessee this year. So I think just with that simple fact, I think at this moment, they're leading Houston, UConn, Purdue, and North Carolina. So I think to get a number 1 seed, Tennessee's going to have to win the SEC tournament, and they're going to have to hope that either Purdue, North Carolina, somebody like that just gets bounced out immediately, pretty much. And because as you and I know, they already don't place a lot of value on the conference tournaments. And so I think it has to be a significant gap where Tennessee wins it and one of the other 4 is bounced out in the first, like today or tomorrow.
Okay, so I'm going to pose this as today's tough question. Does a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament really matter to you? Tennessee's never done it before. So yes, it's history. Never done it. No, a number 2 seed is fine. And you can go ahead and vote on that right now on our YouTube page. And we would certainly appreciate that. And also, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button as we're up and rolling now. We'll get into what it matters and where they could be seated. To me, I don't think it matters. I'm going to take issue with one thing you said. I don't think it matters what you do really on Saturday or Sunday. And I've seen this before in tournaments that I've covered that people would say, oh, you can play yourself up a seed. When did they go to the pod format where they make it more geographically pleasing for fans? Do you remember? Was that about 10, 15 years ago?
Wasn't it when they started the 68-team format, which was 2011, I believe?
Okay.
No, the pod was enacted before the 2002 tournament. Never mind. It was about 21 years ago.
Okay, so I see no way that you could go ahead and chuck your whole bracket if you're the selection committee because Tennessee makes a special run. I think you really have to do one of 2 things, Caleb. I think you either have to flame out first game, look horrible, and then that could cost you a seed, or just get to Saturday. Because at Saturday, the selection committee's putting together their brackets. Aside from the upsets that could happen in the smaller conference tournaments where they get the automatic bids, I believe that they've got the bracket pretty much done when they head into Sunday morning. I don't think that actually that's going to affect Tennessee all that much. We shall see. Portions of the program brought to you by our friends at BetUS, your college basketball betting home. March is here. Get 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2K plus 10% gamblers insurance. Go ahead and click right below. Again, you get all of that thanks to Off the Hook Sports and our relationship with BetUS. So, Caleb, what about chemistry? What about flow? What about rhythm? Does that matter? Brought to you by BetUS.
America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
All right, Caleb, how much does the rhythm aspect of it matter?
I mean, not too much. I actually wanted to address what you said about the seeding real quick and making it to Saturday. Because I actually think you're wrong on that. And here's why. Okay. I spoke out of turn, actually. Arizona's 4th in the basketball power index. North Carolina's down. North Carolina's fourth in the AP and coaches poll, I believe. So it's down to Tennessee and Arizona. Tennessee's 5th. What if Tennessee and Arizona both make it to Saturday? Do you think Arizona's locked in at the number 1 seed at that point?
Okay, I'll give you that. I think there are unusual situations. I definitely didn't want to make a blanket statement. So, yeah, I think there are unusual situations. But for the most part, I think with the logistics, and I think you would agree with this, with the logistics that are in place, you've got to have like a 95% feel for where you're sending people on Sunday
that's
morning
what I'm
if you're the
saying.
selection committee.
I think the selection committee has already made Purdue, UConn, and Houston number 1 seeds. We agree. It doesn't matter what happens in the conference tournament. Those are number 1 seeds, period, end of story.
Probably, yes.
So they probably fill out the whole bracket, and then they wait with Tennessee and Arizona. They're just going to wait and see what happens in the tournament. I do think that, and North Carolina too, by the way. I think North Carolina is making a bigger push than people think. With those 3, I think they're going to wait and see what happens in the tournament. If Tennessee, I think has to. But see, I'm steelmaning your point though. I think they are, because they're leaning Arizona. I think to get a number 1 seed, Tennessee has to win the tournament, and Arizona has to flame out. If Arizona gets to Saturday, it's over. Tennessee's not going to get 1 seed.
Okay, I could see that in that one particular case where you've got an easy flip. I don't think 4 or 5 or 6 of the top schools are all battling. So no. I think we've found a common ground now there. Portions of the program brought to you by friends at Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler. Looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals? Man, they look fantastic out in the sun at the baseball game, those diamond balls. A Tennessee tradition, rickterryjewelry.com. rickterryjewelry.com. We certainly appreciate them. What about the rhythm factor? Let me go back to that. What do you need to do to make sure that you keep your rhythm? I mean, I would say ultimately to keep your rhythm, you blow everybody out by 30 and you run through the tournament, and the combined winning score is 90 to 100 points. But that's not realistic, is it?
No. Win on Friday. Win on Friday, play 20 minutes with your starters on Saturday. That'll keep you in rhythm for next Thursday. And by the way, the rhythm thing is overrated if you're a high enough seed. Because now I get it. People are going to come at me, well, 15 teams have upset number 2 seeds before. Okay. And I'm just going to say this, guys. That rarely happens. Most of the time, and you know this, Dave, the 2 versus 15 is a fall out of bed victory for the 2 seed. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. If you're a 1 or 2 seed and you lose, you've really bleeped the bed.
Exactly. So I don't worry too much about rhythm, because even if you're off for an extended period of time, you'll just get your rhythm back playing that first round game against the 15 seed. I mean,
that's fair. I'll say this too. Somebody posted on the message board, win 2 games in the NCAA tournament. I'm sorry, win 2 games in the SEC tournament. Excuse me. Actually, that would be the worst thing that I would want to happen, because if I'm a Tennessee fan, I would rather them just lose the first game, get more rest, or win it all. To make it to Saturday and lose is actually the worst possibility in my mind. Then there's some vulnerability, and we haven't factored in vulnerability at all. Is vulnerability not a factor? I mean, this team's playing really well at a high level. You like that confidence. Do we underestimate that, especially in basketball? Football, I don't think that confidence necessarily matters as much, because you go out there and hit the other guy and you're going to know if you're a bigger, badder man than him. But in basketball, you hand in the cookie jar when you're shooting, not pulling a string. So, Caleb, are we underestimating that at all?
No, because most teams don't win their conference tournament that win the national title. It's just history has proven that out. And so I don't really think it's that. I mean, honestly, I just don't think it's that big of a deal. I want to go to the women's side real quick. I think Pat Summitt only won the conference tournament title, and I'm dead serious on this. You can look it up. She only won it 3 of her 8 national titles, and she didn't win it 5 of her 8 national titles. So I just don't think it matters that much. I think you'll get your rhythm when you play your first round game against a team you should beat. It's funny what you said about making it to Sunday. There's a great Chris Rock stand-up where he says he dropped out of school in the 10th grade, and he's like, that's the dumbest thing you can do, because you got the same qualifications as someone who dropped out in the 2nd grade at that point, and the person who dropped out in the 2nd grade has an 8-year head start on their career on their resume than you do. So It's kind of this. It's basically that. Making it to Sunday and losing is dropping out in the 10th grade versus losing on Friday, which is dropping out in the 2nd grade. And you got the same qualifications either way for the NCAA tournament.